This video is about electric charge. In this video, we will learn what electric charge is, what are its properties, and more interestingly, how the electric charge was discovered. So this video is about electric charge. A simple experiment all of you must have done in your childhood. You have taken a ruler, plastic ruler, and rubbed it on your hairs and then brought it closer to pencil filings, and what you have observed that these pencil filings were attracted towards the ruler and some also even got stuck to the ruler. This happened due to charging. This ruler got charged by rubbing onto your hair. The similar experiment was performed long time back by Greek philosophers sometime around 600 BC. Instead of ruler, they took an amber rod and rubbed it with silk. And what they observed that this amber rod rubbed with silk attracted small pieces of light things towards it. These were attracted towards the amber rod rubbed with silk. This amber rod is called as electron in Greek. Electron with a K, electron, and the word electricity and electron got their name from electron, which is Greek word for amber. Then similar experiments, even more elaborate experiments, were performed by other people to confirm the existence of electric charge and to know about its properties. Here I will explain you a similar experiment which will confirm the existence of charge and its properties. For this experiment you will require some things. The things required for this experiment are: first I will need glass rods, 2 means 2 number of glass rods. Second, I will need plastic rods, those also 2 numbers. Third, I will need silk cloth, 2 pieces. Fourth, I will require cat's fur, 2 pieces. And last thing, I will require silk threads, 2 pieces of silk threads. This experiment will be performed and will be divided into 4 processes. I will perform different things to these materials, and then we will observe what is happening, and finally we will derive conclusions from those observations. This experiment is divided into 3 processes. In the first process, let me initially set up the experiment. Hang 1 glass rod with silk thread. This is silk thread. Hang 1 glass rod with silk thread. This is glass rod. And for consistency, I will draw glass rod in red and plastic rod in black. Hang another rod, that is plastic rod. I will draw it in black with silk thread. And I have one more glass rod which I don't hang, I will just keep it aside, and another plastic rod. This is the setup. Now what I will do, I also have 2 silk cloths. I will draw silk cloth in red, 2 silk cloths, and cat's fur in black. I have 2 cat's fur. These are cat's fur. Now what I will do, the experiment is consisting of, I will write experiments for the process. What I will do, I will rub the glass rods with silk cloths. rub glass rods, each glass rods with one silk cloth. Rub glass rods with silk cloth, and similarly rub plastic rod with cat's fur. Now next what I will do, after glass rods are rubbed with silk cloth and plastic rods are rubbed with cat's fur, I will bring the two glass rods closer and the two plastic rods closer. I will bring the similar rods closer to each other. Third step will be bring similar rods closer. I will bring similar rods closer. Then what I will observe, if you don't have any idea about electrostatics, then ready to be amazed. You will be amazed to see that you just have rubbed these rods with something, here silk cloth and cat's fur, and after rubbing, what you observe that when you bring them closer, they started repelling each other. When you bring them closer, they start repelling each other. The two rods repel each other. The two plastic rods also repel each other. So our observation is similar rods now repel each other. Similar rods now repel. This is the first process what I have done, the 3 steps in this process, and this is my observation, similar rods repel each other. Now moving to the second process. In the second process, what I initially have, I have the 4 rods rubbed with silk cloths and cat's fur. I already have this glass rod and one plastic rod rubbed with silk cloth and cat's fur. Now instead of bringing similar rods closer, what I will do, the experiment in this case is I will bring different rods closer. I will bring plastic rod closer to the hanging glass rod and glass rod closer to the hanging plastic rod. And what will be my observation? My observation is again surprising. In the last case we saw that similar rods repelled each other. Now what you will observe that the rods attract each other. Now the glass rod attracts the plastic rod, and again same thing for the second case, plastic rod is attracted toward the glass rod. So what is our observation? Different rods attract each other. Out of 4 steps, I have performed 2 processes of my experiment, and here are the observations that same rods rubbed with same cloths repel each other, whereas when different rods are brought closer to each other, they attract each other. This is my observation. From observation of first 2 process, what I can conclude, I have rubbed glass rod with silk cloth and another glass rod also with silk cloth. So something has happened to the glass rod after rubbing, and also something has happened to the plastic rods, that they now started behaving differently. Earlier there was no attraction or repulsion, but after rubbing them with silk cloths, they are repelling each other. So whatever has happened to something has happened. So whatever has happened to first glass rod, the same thing has happened to the second glass rod. And let me name it, they got charged. let's say on rubbing they got charged. We still don't know what charging is, but we are just giving it a name. They got charged. And if both are charged in the same way, let's say I mark charge as green. So glass rod is charged in X way, and another glass rod will also be charged in X way, because same thing has been done to them. They are rubbed with silk cloth. And for plastic rods, let's say plastic rods got charged in Y way. We don't know what X and Y are, but let us presume that they are charged in different way because conditions are different. So what we are observing here, that similarly charged rods attract. And whereas for the second process, in the second process we have seen, we know glass rod is charged in X way, plastic in Y way, plastic in Y, and glass rod in X, and differently charged rods are attracting each other. This is the conclusion until now, that glass rods are charged in some way and plastic rods are charged in some different way. Let me write it down. Conclusion so far. Conclusion that glass rods are charged in X way and plastic rods are charged in Y way. Now move on to continue our experiment. Now I will do third process. In the first and second process, I considered rods only, brought closer the rods and observed whether they attracted or repelled each other. But we also have the silk cloths and cat's fur. We haven't included them in our experiment. Now what I will do for the third process, my setup, already I have glass rod hanging, uh, plastic rod hanging, both are charged, glass rod in X way, plastic rod in Y way. Now I bring the silk cloth with which glass rod was rubbed closer to the glass rod, and I will draw cat's fur in black and bring cat's fur closer to the plastic rod with which it was rubbed. So what is the experiment? Experiment is bring silk cloth closer to the glass rod, and next, and the same thing, bring cat's fur closer to the plastic rod. And what do you observe here will again add to your surprise, that now this glass rod is attracted towards the silk cloth, and similar thing happens to plastic rod. It is attracted towards the cat's fur with which it was rubbed. So from our earlier conclusion, we can say that we know that differently charged objects attract. So if glass rod is charged in X way, then silk must be charged in Y way. And if plastic rod is charged in Y way, cat's fur must be charged in X way. Now I know charging of every object in my experiment. So let me first write it down. That observation is, I have already discussed the conclusion. First let me write the observation. Observation is glass rod and silk cloth attract, and the similar thing happens to plastic rod, plastic rod and cat's fur attract, they also attract. So this is my third process, and what is my observation? That silk cloth and glass rod attract each other, plastic rod and cat's fur attract each other. And now move on to fourth process. In fourth process, the fourth process is slightly different. In earlier processes, in first, second and third process, we brought things closer, but didn't touch them. In the fourth process I will touch them. So I have the glass rod and I will wrap the silk cloth with which it was rubbed to it, and the same thing to the plastic rod. I have, sorry, plastic rod in black, plastic rod hanging, and I will wrap it with the cat's fur with which it was rubbed. So the experiment is wrap the rods with the cloths with which they were rubbed. We will wrap the cloths and the rods with which were rubbed together. And next, what I will do, then I will separate them. And this thing I will do for all the rods and all the cloths. I will wrap silk cloth with one glass rod, another silk cloth with another glass rod, one plastic rod with the cat's fur, and the other plastic rod with other cat's fur, and leave them for a moment and then separate them, and then repeat, separate them, then repeat the processes one processes first and second and third. I will repeat first, second and third processes, the same thing, bringing them closer and observing whether they attract or repel each other. And I will have a very surprising observation here. Can you guess it? It will just knock your mind off what has happened now. The observation is nothing happens. Now nothing happens. Earlier they were attracting or repelling, but when I wrapped them together and then separated them and again carried out the processes, then now nothing happens. Now they neither repel nor attract each other. So what has happened to them? I have drawn conclusion from step process 1 and 2. Now I will draw conclusions from third and fourth. Conclusions from process third and fourth. In the third process, you have seen that the silk cloth and glass rod are attracting each other, so they are differently charged. So my earlier observation was glass rod is charged in X way, plastic rods are charged in Y way. Now I can say the way in which silk cloth and cat's fur are charged. Silk cloths are charged in which way? From the third process you can see silk cloths are charged in Y way, and cat's furs are charged in X way. Now conclusions from the fourth process. In the fourth process, what I have done, I have wrapped the things charged in different ways together. So I brought the things charged in different way closer in contact with each other, and after that what I have observed that all the attraction and repulsion disappears, nothing happens, means the effect of x is cancelled out by y, means x and y when brought in contact they cancelled each other. It means x and y add up to 0, means x is opposite in nature to y, and when they add up they cancel out each other. Now collecting all the conclusions what I have we can derive from this experiment is the final conclusions what we can derive from this experiment. As I promised, you will know what electric charge is, not exactly what it is, the discovery of electric charge, how we can say that there is something called electric charge. So the conclusion from the experiment is, first is something happens to the objects when they are rubbed together, and this is we call, the first conclusion is there exists an entity which we named as electric charge, or sometime we simply call it as charge. And you know where the name electric comes from? It came from electron with a K, which is a Greek word for ember. Second conclusion, what we have observed, that electric charge can be of two types. Charge is of two types. Then similarly charged bodies repel each other. Similarly charged bodies repel each other. And fourth, differently charged, until now until the fourth conclusion we don't know that they cancel out each other. That's why I'm writing differently charged, not oppositely charged. Differently charged bodies attract. And the fifth conclusion which we derived from the fourth process, that different charges cancel out each other, means that the charges are of two types and these are opposite to each other. Charges can have opposite, and we call it as polarity. Charges can have opposite polarity, and by the famous American scientist Benjamin Franklin have very rightly gave the charges name positive and negative. Then this nomenclature was given by Benjamin Franklin based on the properties of charges, that if we call one charge as positive, then the other type of charge can be called as negative because they cancel out each other. So there are two types of charges, positive and negative. And one more conclusion which you can derive from the observation of third process, that when we brought things which were rubbed together closer, they attracted, means when things are rubbed, if one thing get charged in X way, then other thing will get charged in Y way, as we have seen in the third process. So when things are rubbed, if one gets positive charge, I can write it as sixth conclusion. When two things are rubbed together, if one gets positive charge, then the other will get negative charge because they attract. So we can say and we know differently charged objects attract. So if one is positively charged, then other will be negatively charged. Now you final thing you may ask, and some of you must have query in their mind, that which charge to call as positive and which to be called as negative. This is just our convention. We can call any of the two charges positive or negative. If we call one of them as positive, then the other one is negative. So by convention, what is the convention? The convention is glass rod, charge on glass rod, rather I will say charge on glass rod charge on glass rod rubbed with silk is called as positive, is called as positive charge. And from this you can easily say that charge on plastic rod rubbed with cat's fur is called as negative charge. And for consistency, and from from these two convention, we can say that charge on, let me ask you, what is the sign of polarity of charge on silk cloth? Polarity of charge on silk cloth, and whether it is positive or negative, and polarity of charge on cat's fur. This is for your pause it here and give me the answer. Now if you got it right, if glass rod is positively charged, then the silk cloth with which it was rubbed from the third process, we can say silk cloth will be negatively charged. We have written it in the sixth conclusion. When two things are rubbed together, if one gets positive charge, other will get negative charge. From this, if glass rod is positive, then silk cloth will be negative, and if plastic rod is negative, then cat's fur will be positively charged. So in this experiment you have seen how the charge was discovered, but how its properties were ascertained, and uh, we have derived different conclusions from the observation of the four processes. You can, just for a quick review, we have carried out the experiment in 4 steps. In first step, I rubbed glass rod with silk cloth, plastic rod with cat's fur, then brought the similar rods closer, they repelled each other. Then we brought different rods closer, they attracted each other. We derived conclusion from that, glass rods are charged in X way, plastic rods are charged in some different way, and we called it as Y way. And in the third process, we brought glass rods closer to the silk cloths with which they were rubbed, and similarly plastic rods closer to the cat's fur with which they were rubbed, and observed that they attracted each other. So we concluded that silk cloth is charged in Y way, that is same as plastic rod, and cat's fur is charged in X way, that is same as glass rod. And the final conclusive process, in this process we wrapped the cloths with the rods with which they were rubbed and kept them for a moment. Then we separated them and repeated steps, processes 1, 2 and 3. And what we observed, nothing happened. That when the two differently charged objects were again brought in contact, their charges cancelled out, means the two different type of charges are opposite to each other. X is opposite to Y. That was our conclusion from fourth process. And the overall conclusion from the experiment, that there is something called electric charge, and which is of two types. Similarly charged bodies repel each other, differently charged bodies attract each other, and charges are of opposite polarity. And then I told you about the convention which is followed universally, which charge is called as positive and which is called as negative. Glass rod rubbed with silk is called as positive, and plastic rod rubbed with cat's fur is called as negative. So this was just introduction to the electric charge, how it was discovered and its properties.